In the headlines, Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed says CBN didn't consult ministry on redesign of Naira notes. Appeal Court orders stay of execution of its judgment on rendition and release of Nnamdi Kanu. Father of slain Assistant Superintendent of Police Shaibu Sani Malumfashi demands justice for son. And on the foreign scene, World Health Organization Ethiopia's Tigray runs out of medical supplies amid health crisis. Helen, welcome to Trust News Update. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Now the news in detail. The Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, on Friday said the Central Bank of Nigeria did not consult her ministry before taking the decision to redesign Naira notes by December. She made the disclosure during the budget debate of the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning in Abuja. The minister said even though one of the reasons for the decisions is to manage inflation, consequences are sure to follow. She also said she was not aware of the monetary authorities if the monetary authorities have looked closely at the consequences and how they will mitigate them. Senator Bamidele had in his question told the finance minister that barely 2 days after announcement of the policy by CBN, the negative impact of the policy on the Naira against the dollar is already being felt.
More than a few Nigerians have been concerned about the ongoing rising in the value of the dollar as against our Naira, weakening the purchasing power of Nigerians who don't have any corresponding increase in their income, be it salary or whatever it is that they are doing. Now, this policy of the CBN, upon its announcement and the desire of those who actually had this Naira stacked in their domain, now trying to quickly buy dollar to ensure that they are still able to hold on to their money. Part of the immediate effect on that is that dollar is going up. In the black market, we're told as of yesterday, dollar was exchanging for 788 naira to $1.
That really you should call the monetary authorities because they're the competent authority to do this. We were not consulted. It was an announcement that we heard. And I've seen,
you two, you just saw the press release like every other body.
Part of the reasons that was advocated is that's one of the ways to mop up liquidity to manage inflation. But there are also consequences that we're also looking at what would the consequences be. There will be some benefits, but there will be some challenges. And I don't know whether the monetary authorities have actually looked very closely as what the consequences are and then how they can be mitigated. So I still advise that you have that discussion with the monetary authorities.
Reactions have continued to trail the announcement of the Central Bank of Nigeria to redesign the Naira. In Makurdi, Benue State, Jimmy Azande sampled the opinions of residents. His report.
The announcement has received different reactions by residents of Makurdi. Some residents lauded the move, saying it can be a way of fighting corruption, which may lead to a better electioneering process.
There are many politicians, they hijack this currency, our money, and go and load it in their personal house to deceive Nigeria. Now, we thank God, it will fall back onto their heads and they will never succeed. I love it.
It's not a welcome idea. They would have just left the currency the way it is. Our issue in this country is not changing currency. We are faced with a lot of problems in this country, which the government should have tackled. And the issue of dollar rising up is another issue that the government should have tackled, not bringing new currency.
While others see it as necessary, referring it as another policy they cannot mitigate the current economic crisis in the country.
A credit policy that is supposed to take place between 5 to 8 years. It's just that this country were inconsistency. It's due to our inconsistency that when policy issue comes up, we feel frightened about what this is. We should not be frightened about policy issues. if things that government really want to do, and it's from time to time they do it, if we are consistent, nobody should be surprised that this is coming up now.
But in the other side, they are the one who doing it and they will not follow a good places. If not, because some people stole money. That is why I think say it's in a good way. Because if they do that thing, people that are storing our currency, they will not hard with the money again.
However, some residents who said they are not even aware of the announcement hope that the redesigning of the currency will not further devalue the naira.
I'm hearing it for the first time, but I'm happy to hear it because if they think it's a good development for them, I'm also happy. It will not affect my business. What the government like, I think is a very good progress for us.
The CBN has announced that on December 15th, 2022, the redesigned currency will be released. The regulating bank also stipulated end of January 2023 to face off what will become the old currency notes in the economy.
The Court of Appeal in Abuja on Friday has stopped the execution of its judgment that quashed the terrorism charge and ordered the release of leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu. The appellate court had on October 13 delivered a judgment which faulted the rendition of Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria and also set aside the terrorism charges against him. The federal government, not satisfied with this judgment, said that it would explore every legal avenue to quash the judgment of the appellate court and head to the Supreme Court. After taking arguments from counsel, a three-member panel of justices led by Justice Haruna Tsamani on Monday reserved ruling in the matter. Delivering the ruling on Friday, Justice Tsamani held that the federal government's application for stay of execution had merit and ordered that the execution of the judgment be put on hold. He held that the counter-affidavit filed by Kanu's legal team in opposition to the government's application was misleading. The judge said that Kanu's counsel did not properly state the facts of the matter as to warrant the court granting a stay of execution. The court also ruled that the record of proceedings in respect of the October 13 judgment be forwarded to the Apex Court within 7 days to ensure expeditious hearing. In politics, the Court of Appeal in Jos has on Friday upheld the judgment of the Election Petition Tribunal, which voided election of Musa Aga, a People's Democratic Party member representing Basa, Jos North Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. The court had also asked the Independent National Electoral Commission to issue a certificate of return to Muhammad Adam Alkali as a duly elected member to represent the constituency. Ado Musa completes the report.
Musa Aga had appealed against the judgment of the Election Petition Tribunal, which nullified his election in September. The SAC lawmaker had in his petition asked the court to determine whether he was lawfully nominated and or whether the tribunal was right to have cancelled his vote in the 62 polling units in Tudun Wada Kabon Ward and to declare Muhammad Adam Alkali winner. But the appeal court, in a consensus judgment delivered by Justice Tani Hassan, held that the tribunal was right in its judgment. She held that the PDP did not comply with the subsisting judgment of the State High Court, which ordered it to conduct lawful Congress before the election. The court further held that the refusal of the PDP to conduct Congress as ordered by the State High Court was a contempt of court, and therefore the nomination of the second appellant was null and void.
But we are not bothered about the cross appeal since we have gotten the main appeal, which all our grants succeeded. But that of overvoting and the one that they did not have a candidate at the election. My faith about the judiciary is I'm putting more hope on them. Judiciary have changed. It has moved from where it is used to be known to a greater height. The judgment is sound and a well-considered judgment.
Justice Hassan ordered for the nullification of Aga's certificate of return and order for the immediate issuance of certificate of return to Muhammad Adam Alkali as a duly elected member for Basa Jos North Federal Constituency. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Labour Party has tasked members of the Presidential Campaign Council to intensify efforts towards the funding of the campaigns ahead of 2023 elections. Inaugurating the Party Campaign Council in Abuja on Friday, National Chairman of the party, Julius Abure, said that it is not easy to prosecute a presidential election in Nigeria. He appealed to members of the council to work towards mobilizing funds for the party. Abure appealed to members of the party, members of the campaign, and well-meaning Nigerians who are interested in enthroning good leadership to join hands with the party, saying Labour Party is in need of funding required to prosecute the elections. He further said the presidential election is expensive and competing against the main parties that have stolen resources and ready to deploy it in the election was not going to be an easy task.
The beautiful bride, no doubt, and indeed all other candidates of the party. Nigerians are expecting so much from us. Nigerians are expecting that we'll be able to lead them to victory come 2023. And that has entrusted on you and to us that huge responsibility to do what we need to do in order to see the party to victory and its candidate next year. I must say that the task is not an easy one. Like the Bible will say, we are not fighting against flesh and blood, but against principality and powers of the earth.
President, chair candidate, and the vice presidential candidate are not here also on advice of our security team. I remember that, apart from what I read on Facebook, social media, and personal contact, I even sent a tape to the presidential candidate. One woman said, Obi, take your time, oh, you go enter boat, you know where that jacket.
Still in politics, ahead of the 2023 elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission has reaffirmed its readiness to join forces with all the security operatives in the country for the successful and secured exercise. INEC Chairman Professor Mohammed Yakubu said this at a meeting with the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security and Civil Society Organizations at the Commission's headquarters in the nation's capital. Noel Sampson reports.
Insecurity ravaging parts of the country is a headache for the electoral umpire, and without peace and security, it will not be possible to achieve successful polls at the forthcoming elections. This has necessitated consultative meeting between INEC and security agents in the country. The Commission shares its readiness to cooperate with security forces for a successful conduct of the 2023 election.
We will continue to share information with the security agencies and, most importantly, work together to ensure that elections hold peacefully nationwide as scheduled. As the 2023 general election approaches, we will continue to appraise the security situation in the country and its possible impact on the conduct of elections. We are right now working to harmonize our election risk management and election violence mitigation and advocacy tools, EVMAT, for a more effective risk assessment and mitigation measures ahead of the general election.
The security operatives were commended for professionalism during the just concluded Ekiti and Osun governorship elections. INEC expects more from them ahead of the forthcoming election.
However, the NSA has observed the violent dimensions of electioneering campaigns, which characterizes attacks on campaign rallies, political campaign offices, as well as passing of uncomplimentary remarks and uncalled utterances among politicians, which recently witnessed in some states, signal potential threat to the smooth conduct of the forthcoming elections in February 2023.
The Commission has been meeting with the various electoral stakeholders to get a buy-in for peaceful conduct of the elections. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
You're watching Trust News Update. Coming up after the break. How traditional musicians, drummers are fading. Do stay with us.
Rewa kamar ta saka mai wuya ya zo ya haɗe su kap.
This is not the first time it is happening. It has happened before, but this time around, like I said, the intensity and the volume of water that has come has done more damage than even the past.
No food, no clothing, and no shelter. Until tomorrow, every year, there is a budget line for Dasim Hausa Dam. Every year, because I've seen it and I know it. But till tomorrow, nothing has been done about it.
So the Nigerian factor certainly is one of the reasons why communities like this have to suffer.
Ba wani rayuwar da za mu sake yi mu ji daɗi kuma.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Let's take a look at some of our top stories. We told you that Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed says CBN didn't consult Ministry on redesign of Naira notes. You also heard that appeal court orders stay of execution of its judgment on rendition and release of Nnamdi Kanu. Moving to more stories, the father of slain Assistant Superintendent of Police Shuaibu Sani Malumfashi wants proper investigation and justice for his son. Malumfashi was allegedly killed by a colleague at his residence in Argungu, Kebbi State. Sani Malumfashi made the call during a press briefing in Kaduna. The report.
Expressing his dissatisfaction with the way and manner the Nigerian police is handling the case of his son said to have been killed by his police colleague, Sani Malumfashi says he is ready to ensure justice is served.
I'm doing that to protect people from being the next victim. If a police assistant superintendent will kill a divisional crime officer, who is me, the bloody journalist? Who is me, the bloody trader that will have a guarantee to even sleep with his eyes closed? We want to avert reoccurrence of a policeman whose earning is from taxpayers' money in Nigeria, who is being paid to protect lives and properties of the citizenry and even resident, that is, resident nationals or other nationals from other countries resident in Nigeria, is doing this. What is the fate of the ordinary man in the society?
According to him, it is important for the Inspector General of Police to know the true picture of how his son was stabbed to death and appropriate action taken against whoever killed him.
And I am calling on the Chairman Police Service Commission, the Chairman Senate Police Committee, the Chairman of the lower arms of the government, that is the House of Reps, and then my own state of origin, Katsina State, I want them to come up. It is their son, who could have been somebody. I am ready, even if I will sell my only car, my only house, to take son up to Supreme Court, I will do to make sure justice is done.
ASP Shuaibu Sani Malumfashi was said to have been stabbed to death with scissors by his colleague. Until his murder, ASP Shuaibu Sani Malumfashi was crime officer at the Arugungun Divisional Police Headquarters. He had disagreement with his suspected killer prior to his murder. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
The spate of insecurity in the northern part of the country has forced many schools to close and expose the adolescent population to social vices which negatively impacts their development. Gender advocates at the 22nd Regular National Council on Women Affairs who identified this as one of the major factors perpetuating the practice of early marriage. However, want security and other safety measures to be put in place to encourage the girl child to return to school. Trust TV's Aisha Salihu reports.
The rising incidences of insurgency, kidnapping and banditry in the northern part of the country contribute to complex humanitarian crisis and have impeded the enrollment and retainment of the girl child in schools. This results in an increase in the number of out-of-school children. As such, parents send off their young female children into early marriage.
The educational status of a woman, of a girl, is what determines the economy of any country, not the number of buildings, because it affects maternal mortality, child mortality, the kind of nutrition, whether you give birth to children that can rule the country because they've been sound, they've been fed well. So a lot of things anchor on the girl child. And that girl child is also anchored on the level of her education. Until we have security and safety for schools of children, for children, it's going to be like almost the country is just going to go on a roller coaster.
Whatever we're doing, we had to ensure the security and well-being of these children because we don't want to lose them, to child marriage or, dropouts and so on, because we're also battling to see that, we keep our children in school.
Maybe one of those is fencing schools, having security guards, people that are looking out to see what is happening, even communities themselves.
This menace calls for the need for collaborative efforts on the part of traditional, religious, security institutions and community levels towards ensuring the provision of an enabling and safe environment for schools. The deliberations at this panel is organized by Development Research and Project Center under the BUILD project of the Ford Foundation, initiating a program to cater for education in emergencies.
The traditional institution, they hold a strong voice. They're bridging gap between the parent, the community, government, and the service providers in ensuring they change the negative norms and perception, enroll more girl child into school, ensure convolution, transition to others so that we can bridge gap in the issue of human resource for health, girl child, human resource for health, and human resource for education.
We taught our pupil, the student, how to safeguard themselves whenever there is an attack. We tell them the early warning strategies for them to be alerted on their way going to school or on their way coming back to home, or even when they are in the school. How can they prevent themselves?
Stakeholders say advancing girl-child education is one of the best solutions to reverse the trend of rural poverty and creates improved maternal health, among others. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Okay. Moving on, the federal government has reiterated Nigeria's commitment towards supporting United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization in providing the platform for championing promotion, adoption, and implementation of media and information literacy policies across the world. This came to the fore at the closing session of the 11th UNESCO Global Conference with an adoption of the Abuja Declaration on Global Financing for Media and Information Literacy. Trust TV's Aisha Salihu reports.
As part of the framework in using media and information literacy to curb the negative effects of disinformation, fake news, and build trust, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization has resolved to establish its International Media and Information Literacy Institute in Nigeria. The decision formed parts of the resolutions of the week-long 2022 UNESCO Global Media and Information Literacy Conference.
We must allocate specific funds to developing media and information literacy programs, embedding media and information literacy across the whole information, media, education, and communication continuum.
And the fuse of violence is easily lit. The theme of this year's Global Media and Information Literacy Week is all about building trust in the face of a growing infodemic.
We also commit to working with UNESCO to establish a UNESCO International Media and Information Literacy Institute in Nigeria.
Speaking at the closing.
Music is described as a combination of vocal or instrumental sounds or tones in varying melody, harmony, rhythm, and timbre to form structurally complete and emotionally expressive compositions. Do you listen to music? In this special report, Trust TV's Salihu Lawan takes a look at traditional musicians' lives' contribution to the sustenance of peace and their challenges in modern Nigeria. His report.
These traditional musicians performed mainly for royalties at an enclosed location called palace in the olden days. But today, in modern Nigeria, they are generally perceived as beggars by those who do not understand the importance of the group in the society in which they reside. However, these traditional musicians said they are aware of their current subordinate status in the society despite all their contribution.
While considered as beggars in some societies, the rivalry between us is sometimes alarming. One sees the other as a threat and moves to do everything possible to hinder the performance of the other group in order to humiliate it. A very skillful musician may suddenly become dull at performance just because someone has played a prank on him by use of charms.
Our job requires talent. Someone has to be very skillful on doing this job. For example, as a leader, sometimes I manipulate the rhythm of the song without prior preparation just to get at what I want. It could be circle of friends, a traditional title holder. Some think we're singing abusive songs. But no, we are not. We are just sending messages.
This realization is sometimes evident in their performance as they often resist discrimination by singing songs to protest their marginalization.
Banga, Jauji,
We are real traditional musicians. Before, we don't sing to anybody but royalties. Modernization and some changes even at the traditional institution made us to become what we are now. Things are not like before. We don't command respect as we used to in the olden days. Besides, most of us are in other businesses, as the occupation is no longer paying like before.
And finally, on the foreign scene, Ethiopia's Tigray region has run out of medical supplies such as vaccines, antibiotics, and insulin, World Health Organization officials say on Friday, warning that many deaths are probably going unrecorded from preventable and treatable diseases. The conflict that has pitted Ethiopia's army against forces from the country's northern region of Tigray has killed thousands, displaced millions, and left thousands on the brink of famine. And with this, we've come to the end of Trust News Update. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Thanks for watching.